Hello, welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all. But sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Health In Show by Homeopathy World Community SWC. SWC is the professional community of homeopaths. It's an online community. You can see all the details at www.homeopathyworldcommunity.com. Here today, I am Dr. Deepak Sharma, CEO of SWC. Welcomes you all of you, and we are there. First, Gillian Wray is with us, who is also an executive director of SWC. We will talk about the CPD and the next one, Mr. Emnan, the producer of the show. He is with us. So the show it will be live on nishancommunication.com. You can watch it on the tech watch live, or you can choose the show, Health in Show, on the nishancommunication.com. In between the show, you can ask any question via two methods. The first is via call at 919-518-9773, or you can call via Skype at computer 2K voice. 2 is the numerical number 2. I am repeating again, computer 2K voice @ skype.com. So you can ask any question. You can also chat here at nishancommunication.com. We are live here, so we welcome you, Gillian. So we will talk about the CPDs. The CPD meanings the continued professional developments, and especially we are talking for the home test today. So welcome, Gillian. Welcome to the show, and please continue and what you want to explain about the CPDs and especially for the home test.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. What I would like to emphasize is that CPD covers such a vast array of things in our continuous professional development. But something that sometimes gets a little bit overlooked is supervision and support. And I don't really mean just supervision that we're familiar with for our students or people who are recently qualified. But it's really important that there's some sort of supervision stroke support there for practitioners, no matter how long they're qualified. Because at some stage in our practices, we always meet something or someone or an aspect that might just leave us a little bit unsure or unsettled. And we all need to have someone to share that with and to help us find our own way through whatever darkness might befall us at the time. And so, very often when people hear of supervision, they think of their college days or when they're newly qualified, which can vary a lot from country to country. I know in India, where the homeopaths work alongside medical doctors, they would have a hierarchy and they have support and supervision all the way through. But then when they qualify and perhaps go into private practice, depending on where they live in, they may not have the same full support. And certainly in other countries, such as in America and in Europe, when people qualify and they become practitioners, sometimes for the first year or so, they might belong to a group, a study form, a study group, or they'll attend some seminars to tune in on their qualification and improve what they have. And then as time goes by, sometimes we're not so quick or as inclined to do it unless there's something new has come along and we want to find out what that's about. So my passion really is to ensure that every homeopath, wherever who they are, that during their span and professional time, they have somewhere to go with an issue, someone to share their issues with. And it could be that you're in a great study group, but maybe there's somebody in that group that upsets you. Or perhaps you've met a patient that has just triggered something within yourself and leaves you a little bit unsettled, and you need to be able to take that to somebody else. Some countries have established supervisors and mentors, especially for their new graduates. We do here in Ireland. Anyone who joins the Irish Society of Homeopaths, their first year, they have a mentor to help them through whatever issues might come up for them and setting up their practice. After the first year, you're still there and you might be great, but there can also be little issues. Or even if you're 20 years in practice, you could meet something that you just need to share with somebody else. And that's where a good mentor, support rather than supervising, is so important. So that's my passion.
That is wonderful. Then, so you're talking about the Indian. Yes, we are called as a medical professional doctors, and like the CPDs, we have the CME, like continue medical education for the home base. But we want to listen about the CPDs first. So I will talk later about this. So please continue your topic. If anyone have any question, you just ask about at our phone numbers 919-518-9773. You can call all via Skype at computer 2K voice. You can also chat your question at nishancommunication.com. Go to the live show and we are here to answer you. So, Gillian, thank you so much. Please continue your topic. I will talk about the CME later.
Okay, right. One
Yeah.
thing that I thought of that I love to try and explain, I started my supervision training because I have done a serious amount of supervision and mentoring training for the Irish Society of Homeopaths, but mostly my training was done with a lady called Sheila Ryan, who wrote a great little book all about doing supervision. She's a homeopath. I think she's semi-retired now. I'm not sure if her book's still in print. It's a book called Vital Practice, and it's very good if anyone can get hold of a copy of it. There's something she has in her book, which I feel is quite important because this does cause a lot of confusion. As she actually asks after the passage if you're confused, and it tells you that a mentor implies guidance, a supervisor is more likely to observe, question, and reflect. And a coach is more likely to be performance and goal orientated. And I feel that is a great way of just slightly separating the roles, but they do fuse. As Sheila says in her book, even these things, they interact, they overlap. And so it's a combined effort. And what we learned when we were doing all the training was something called reflective practice. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but for anyone who's not familiar, reflective practice is where you would take an item, a subject, whatever your issue is, after the event. You might write it out and write out what you did. And then ideally with somebody else, but you can do this for yourself, but it's better if you've somebody doing it with you. And you can reflect back and see what you did and see if there's something, if you had changed the way you did it and you'd done something different, would you have a better outcome? And if you use this principle on a regular basis in your practice, it helps you overcome a lot of things that might seem like a burden. But at the same time, if you have an issue and you cannot figure it out for yourself, it's good to share that with another person who can then reflect back to you what they hear you saying and help you find your path, your answer to your problem. So it's not like college supervision, where somebody sort of tells you how to do it properly and you follow those guidelines. But the whole principle behind the reflective practice, and supervision, and support is to help you find your path. Because what suits me wouldn't necessarily suit you. if you can understand what I mean by that. Because a lot of people, when they hear the word supervision, especially if they've been qualified for a while,
Mm.
they run the other end of the path. They'll take to the hills because they've done that. They've had it for college and they're qualified. They know what they're doing. Everything's going fine. Then something happens. And you do need to share that, whether it's within a study group, which are brilliant. Like a lot of people start study groups after they finish college and they continue to learn and share their information with each other. But sometimes you need to go a little bit beyond the study group, or you need somebody with a little more maturity who's maybe had that problem in the past. Or it could be somebody who's not even another homeopath, but they've met a similar business issue and they can show you, help you get around your issue. And the whole thing about doing this is to ensure that 5 years after somebody's qualified, 10 years after somebody's qualified, or like people like myself and others who are 20 to 30 years qualified, we're still practicing. We haven't given up because things didn't go right for us. And that really,
Mm.
as I said, this is a passion of mine. I want to see all homeopaths across the world flourishing. Each country has its different rules and regulations, so it's important that if you were offering supervision to somebody who maybe lived in a different country to you, that you will make sure they are applying to their own country's regulations. Because different countries have different rules about who can practice, what they can practice, sometimes what remedies they can use. And if these things cause you an issue, you take it to your supervisor, stroke mentor, support person. If that person lives in a different country to you, you need to ensure that you're complying with your own rules and regulations. And
Mm.
so I'm mentioning that because this is an international platform we're on here today, and that would vary a little bit, sometimes a lot, depending on where the person who's listening or watching us actually lives themselves. But within wherever you're living, unless you're living on a desert island in the middle of the ocean, and nobody else, no other practitioner within 500 miles and no internet access, these are things you need to be aware of. And the beauty of the internet now is we can chat like this with somebody. There might be a particular person who you like their style, and you might want to be able to talk with them. And with the internet now, we can do this. We're not limited to whoever's living in our local town or our local village. And as I say, for me,
Great.
continuous supervision, along with learning about the remedies and learning about different protocols and ways of practicing, self care is just as important as knowing your different remedies.
Great. So learning is the nature of every human. So CPTs is not like a term that especially for the homeopaths. It is for everyone. Every professional need the progression in their profession. So can you explain why the need of to do a CPD for homeopath, and how long is there any criteria in the every countries have like you are passing the CPDs for these marks, or any kind of marks for CPD? What the rules and regulation? It is for same for every country or different for different countries?
Well, I, I can speak for the Irish Society of Homeopaths. We have a system for our new graduates where when they become members,
Yes.
any new graduate, not
Mm.
just people just from college, any new graduate, at their first year in practice, they would have a mentor who works with them for the first year to help them get settled in and get themselves established and any issues they might have to help them figure out ways around them. But then we also offer mentoring and supervision to all our members that they can avail of. There's a list of people who've been trained in how to give mentoring and supervision, and there's a list that they can avail of. Different countries would have different setups, different ways of doing it. Some places are very good, and some therapies, not necessarily homeopathy, but I know of other therapies where they might have to do a certain amount of CPD or attend another counselor themselves, that sort of thing. This varies a lot from country to country. And I think for most part, it's very often voluntary. It's not an absolute condition for practice, but it's something that is, I feel, should be not mandatory, but um, encouraged. Now,
Mm.
not everybody's going to need help in the same way. You could be practicing for years and years, but somebody could just come in and just something about them just presses your buttons. There's something about them that leaves you feeling uneasy. You take their case, you listen to what they have to say, but there's just something leaves you with a resonance that you're not in a good space. And that is something a professional homeopath would take to their support or supervisor, just to talk it out and tease out what was the issue. Because sometimes it can resonate with something within yourself that might have been your situation many years beforehand. Or it could be that you just feel there's something about this person that isn't quite as it should be. And there are ways, and then,
Mm.
like, if you have situations where you're not happy with the family setup of the people coming into you, most countries have regulations now about children and vulnerable adults and that sort of thing. And so there is somewhere you can go specifically with that if it's a problem. But if it's just an issue that just leaves you feeling a little bit unsettled, you need to be able to take that to somebody. If you can't sort it for yourself and dismiss it, it's something you need to look after for your own health and well being. Because it's great
Okay.
looking after everybody else and healing everybody else and keeping everybody else. If you're running yourself down in the process, that's not good for anybody.
Okay. So, Glenn, we will continue the show and we will continue the talking. In between, I just talked about the homeopathy world community. This is a community for professional homeopaths. Any homeopath around the world can join the homeopathy world community at homeopathyworldcommunity.com. We have many things to do in during the in this on this online community. On this 17th of November, we have a book club show. This is with Richard and Menon. Our executives, our board members will do this show with Manfred Muller. In this book club, we will review the books, and we have many other things to do. Like we have Clever Edge, our online journal, who is published by SWC. We have coffee shows. We have Health in. You are watching the Health in live. So, Gillian, now continue the topic. So, is there any criteria if you are not uh, collecting these CPDs or you are not doing your working on the CPDs? So, any punishment for this, especially for the home pass, like in India, if we are not doing specific courses or we are not completing our CME, so our registration will be cancelled or something like that in many states of India. So is there anything, especially for the home pair, if he or she is not completing the CPD in a year, so what will be the punishment? Is that like,
Well, yes, you see, across the world, a lot of it depends on the legal status of homeopathy as a practice. In some countries, they're very strict, and there might be medical doctors as well as being a homeopath. In other countries, there might be professional homeopaths, and it would come down to each individual society, as in professional society or body, to set the standard. Now, for ourselves, we are required to do certain amounts of CPD each year, which we have to send in the documentation for to show we've done it. and it comes under different categories. So that's part of our agreement as being members of the Irish Society of Homeopaths. Other countries may have something similar in place, but I don't know if they're compulsory. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
We all agree and we do this as part of our agreement every year, and we sign and we show whatever we've done for this year, and it goes in to the society with our annual membership. So there would be that, because if you didn't comply, you might lose your membership status. And in that case, that would affect whether the insurance companies would pay on your receipts to the patients and things like that. In countries where you come under the health system and the health scheme, it's probably like in India, it's more direct and available because it's all done through an official source. But in self-regulating countries where homeopathy is a self-regulating scheme and is not confined or overseen, I should say, by government, it's very much on the individuals within that society or organization to comply with the rules of the society. And we have a great
Mm.
scope and leeway in what's acceptable, but we all have to do a certain amount. The supervision side of it, support side of it, is not a compulsory issue in Ireland. They did try to make it as part of the absolute, had to be done every year by everybody, but it didn't really sit well. So we have our mentors and supervisors there available for any of our members if and when they need them. So, as I say, it does vary from country to country, but the most important thing is for homeopaths to be aware that these things are in existence, that they're available, and for people to make use of them, because it's for the benefit of the homeopath as well as their patients. Because if the
Mm.
homeopath is not in a good space, how can they possibly look after their patient?
Definitely, definitely. And this is for every profession, especially in the medical one.
Oh, yes,
So,
yeah, I suppose it
in
is.
yes, so I think you belong to North Dublin.
I live in
So, is
North
there
Dublin. I'm a member
okay,
of the
okay,
Irish Society of Homeopaths.
okay.
I
So,
live
is
and
there
practice in North
any
Dublin City.
okay? So, in your cities, is there any course for homeopaths, especially for the year or in during the CPD? What they include? They include the remedies, they include the mathematical, they include the organon, or what they actually want to increase your power. So what CPD includes?
What do we have? Right, well,
Yes.
the society run a few workshops a year. They have a couple of
Okay.
talks and workshops and things like that that the members can avail of. And we also have regional groups, which were revamped and set up again some months ago, about a year or so ago, around the country in different areas, where we just meet up together once a month and have a chat, conversation, get together, because most of us are very isolated in our practices. We don't work it within the health service, so we all have private practices, except for a couple of people who run dispensaries as well. So we enjoy getting together for a chat. It could be about anything and everything, very informal. But it's good. We do that once a month. And there's 5 or 6 of those in different regions around Ireland. And then, as I say, the society run a few workshops every year. And there's always somebody doing a course with the internet now. We can attend online many courses from different countries, which is great for the academic side of things and learning more about materia medicas and learning more about protocols, different ways of doing things. But the meetups, I think, are the best because you get to chat with homeopaths from various different stages in their practice. It could be people who have been practicing for a long time, somebody practicing a few years. Some people might have another therapy they do along with homeopathy, and others could be students who are so eager and can't wait to get finish their college and have their diploma and be able to start practicing. Unfortunately, they don't realize what it's all about. So it's good that they can blend and meet some people who've been there and had to try and establish a practice and then keep it
Yeah.
going and still have fun and enjoy life and take every case that comes in with an even better when we get somebody well. But
Okay.
the main thing is to keep people in practice.
Great. Like that in India, every city has own society or the association. Like I am living in Delhi, capital of India. So we have Delhi Homeopathic Medical Association. And by this association, we are doing every month on the last Sunday of the month, we are doing a CME program. This is called as the Continuing Medical Education Program, in which hundreds of homeopaths are coming under one roof. We are discussing about the topic. We already selected topic like we will discussion on the migraine. So at this month we will discussion on the migraine. We will discussion about the homeopathic treatment. We are discussing the homeopathic remedies and how the homeopathic approach is there. So in every city, almost in every city of India, we have CME around the India. So this is like a CPD you already told. So here in India, yes, we have a benefit, and I am lucky so
That's
that
good.
I
That's
am an
really good.
Indian.
Yeah,
That
I was just sorry.
uh,
I was just laughing there for a minute. You mentioned that in Delhi, you said something about you had 200 or so homeopaths would meet up.
yes.
We have about 250 homes in the whole country.
Oh yes,
Maybe a
I
bit more.
know,
There's
I
probably
know.
a few more, but I know when I registered, we've about
Mm,
200 or 300 homeopaths in the country, you know? It's so
yes,
different. But all
yes.
our homeopaths would have attended private colleges and we have license to work, but we're not within the health service. So we often get the patients when they've been all through the medical system, and then they might come to us. And so for our new practitioners, it's really important that I imagine it's much the same in other parts of Europe as well, and possibly in America, where it's really important that you can realize and have them understand that not every patient is going to get better with one tablet or one dose of a remedy. And sometimes they have
Mm,
to work through whatever's gone on before. It'll improve. And there is the odd case, there is time sometimes you get somebody quite unexplainably, they come back after one remedy and they're all better. And you're waiting to see what's going to happen next. But for our new practitioners and for people who are finding maybe their practice is not going as well as they would have liked to have gone, to know there's someone you can talk to know there's a form of support or supervision, whether it's that you're not quite getting your case or whether you're having difficulties in finding time to see your patients. But always somebody to share this with, to keep you going. So
mm,
you're the head of the clinic, you're running the practice, and you're happy in your work.
yes,
As I said, it's a bit of a passion.
yes. You just told about that your country have 250 home care. No worry about the numbers of homeopath, but I still know that homeopathy is the only alternative medical science which available in I think every country. At least one homeopathy in every country is there, as I know. So no alternative medicine like Ayurveda, like Chinese medicine, like anything else. No alternative medicine is on the every country. So homeopathy is still on the second number as a choice, as WHO is already said. Homeopathy is the second number of choice of medical system, which is chosen by the patient. So this is a quality of homeopathy. Even homeopathy is only made by the soul. If you have a pure soul, you can only be choose the homeopathy. So homeopathy is growing. Yes, I know. But for the standards, we need to standardize the homeopathy. We need to standardize the treatment of homeopathy. We need to standardize the practice of homeopathy. In many country, I know in many country, homeopathy is banned. Homeopathy is not lying under the medical treatment, but they are using. Even in the government system, I see many of the person are using the homeopathy in many ways, but they are not liking by the system.
Mm.
So this is by growth. We are growing, and we are also doing through the homeopathy world community that homeopathy will be worldwide, will reach in every country. That's why we request every homeopath who are watching this show can join the homeopathy world community. This is an online platform. We all homeopaths are running together. So in this series, today we are on the health show by the Nishan Communication. I thank always thank to Nishan Communication, who is always being with us since the health is started in 2012, I think. So every show is maintained by Nishan Communication. So Gillian, we will continue with the points. And so, what is another thing? Did you know
Sorry, I've
anything
lost.
about the countries uh, who is very small? And they have you told less internet or less studies are there. So how we can improve these home paths through SWC or from your society or from on which by source you every home path can contact you or your society who are improving the CPDs or
Well,
doing the CPD.
yeah, certainly for anyone in Ireland who's a member of the Irish Society of Homeopaths, they would have access to the lists of all the people who are available to do supervision if they need it. As far as worldwide goes, I think it's really important that, if possible, every country where there's homeopathy is practiced, they have some form of communication with each other and have some sort of support groups for themselves. Of course, with the internet to chat with people across the other side of the world, my first reference would be to have somebody local to you if you can. But if
Mm,
that's not possible, then you could find people like myself who have had some official training in supervision and giving feedback and mentoring, because you have to be very careful how you would give your feedback to somebody. You need to reflect back to them what you think they've told you, because it's quite easily that you got it wrong, in which case you give them the opportunity to explain. No, that isn't what I meant. Oh, that's not what I thought I said. But if need be, people can use the internet the same way as you might have a consultation with somebody. If you have a homeopath even in a different town to you, or as I said, go back to before where I was mentioning somebody living on a little island and they're the only person around. If you haven't got the internet, back in the old fashioned days, people used to write letters to each other, or there's a phone
yeah,
call. I think nearly
mm,
everywhere now there's some form of internet connection that you can share or chat with someone. And all this, like anything, any consultation, would all be confidential. That's a very important thing. That's where sometimes you can move out of the study group. A study group is great, but everybody in the study group knows what you're discussing. And if you have something that you don't want everybody to know, or maybe a particular person in that study group, that might be your issue, by going to somebody privately, separately, you can just discuss with that person or share your concerns with that person. And it stays there in that room with that person, and nobody else would know. And I think that is so important. Like we do it with our patients, and we're very particular when we have cases that we share with people not to have anything that could identify the patient. But when it comes to supervision and support for our colleagues, it's just as vital and important. Because there's no point somebody, say, coming to me and saying their issue, but they need to help me tease out what their issue is if they don't know for sure or how they can handle their situation. I can't go telling that to somebody else. Now, if that situation left me in a bad place, then I would take my issue to my supervisor, but not the issue of the other person. Do you comprehend what I'm saying? If somebody was thinking of trying to set this up somewhere for themselves, just on a small local level, if you have an issue and somebody brings you that issue and you can deal with it, that's fine. You share it, you deal with it. But if that issue left you in a position that you had to talk to somebody else, you talk about how that position left you feeling, nothing to do with the original issue, because that was somebody else's issue. These are little things
Hmm.
that are so important for the trust and confidentiality. Sometimes you have to go outside of the study group or outside of the group of friends or colleagues because you've got something, and you might take it to somebody totally different who has nothing to do with the group, because that again takes the confidentiality side of it. At the same time, it leaves the person with the issue in a better space and they can reflect on it. As I said, I'll mention reflective journaling again because reflection is so important. You have your issue, you write it out. You write out what it done for you, how it affected you, what the outcome was. And you look back on that and see, if I had done X instead of Y and I got result B instead of result A, would I have been any better off at the end? And if I had, I know next time, should that arise, this is what I'll do instead. But if at the end your outcome is the same, then you can either decide, right, what I did was correct, it was the right way to do things, and that was the consequence. Or you look at it and say, well, I could have handled it better, so it wouldn't have left me in that position. And
Hmm.
it's a great little tool to have. And if you can do it, I remember when we were doing our training, we used to have a three-legged stool situation, but sometimes there was only two of us and we had an empty chair. The three-legged stool gives the balance. But when there's only two of you, you use the chair as the third entity. And so instead of talking to each other, we talk to the chair. And then it helped everybody see things clearly. And the differences, now this was only in an exercise, but it showed how you can do things and put it in a location and give it a space. And that helps to resolve any issues. Even if the issue is your accountant because you haven't got the books in on time.
Yes, interesting. So, it is a silly question, But it is the CPDs doing, like you said, your society is doing the CPDs for home pet. So it is the paid version or it is a free of cost? Because in I talked about the Delhi Homeopathy Medical Association. This is a free for every home pet we are doing in India. So in your country or in a different community, it is a paid version for home pets.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said. The internet went a bit.
Uh, I said that is the CPD like the any course you are doing through the society, it is paid for home pets in your country or not?
Who pays for it?
Yes, and is the version is paid like if any home pet want to improve their skills and they want to increase the CPD, so it is a paid for everyone. It is have a payment or it is a free to
No,
develop
there
your
is
skill.
payment and there is payment. The way most of the CPD people pay for themselves as they go along, depending on what the CPD is. Now, for the new graduates or the people who want to become members of the Irish Society of Homeopaths, say they've moved from another country and they want to become a member of our society,
Mm.
they once they get through the first part and they would become eligible to be a member, during their first year, in the fee that they've paid to the society for their membership, for their registration, and everything it entails, they get 4 sessions of mentoring supervision as part of their first year. And so that's sort of prepaid in their registration. And after that, anybody who feels the need for some supervision, they would have to pay their supervisor. So the supervisors are paid by the society for the new members for that year because it's part of the registration. But then after that, each person has to pay the supervisor themselves. And sometimes we run a special, that's a couple of times we've done it where we've run a special where it's been a half price rate and the society have picked up the second half of the cost. And that worked quite well. But they can't do it all the time. It's just something they do now and again just to encourage people to get support or supervision. But generally, it's something that has to be paid for. Along same with consultations. Like some people run, a few people might run a low cost or a free clinic, but generally the homeopaths are paid privately. They don't come under any of the health schemes and they have to be paid for. They have to pay, patients pay, as they would to the GP. As here in Ireland, only people with what we call a medical card get the free GP. Everybody has to pay the doctor. And so it depends on what scheme you're in. It's like a lot of places, like it varies. It's not like the UK where they have the complete free service. But it's fine. It's good. It works well. And people, if people need supervision or they have an issue, I don't think there's a homeopath here in Ireland that would refuse to chat with you or help you. It's just technically there would be a fee
Mm.
involved.
Okay, great. So what I suggested to every home pet, because I am teaching many of the students here in India. So from the many country, I got the message to improve their knowledge. They are doing the online courses. They are spending many money to the fake things, and they are giving to the money to the societies and those kind of association. Those are not including in the CPDs. So I suggest every home pet to search your association in your country first, search your rules and regulation in your country, and then pay for the society. Not like that. I had a case of a home pet who is living in Thailand, I think, and he paid a membership for the another country, and which is not actually the association of home pets, so that they lost the money. and he did not get anything. So you search your rules for the CPDs. Like in India, we have the CME's rules. So you can join the Indian Association by the Indian law. In your North Dublin, every homeopath can search the North Dublin rules first. So this is my suggestion for every homeopath to search first of what is actually association is doing, because in our homeopathy world, there are many fake courses are there. They are not recognized by the society. They are not recognized. The individual homeopaths having their own courses, so that is
Mm.
not recognized. So I do not suggest anyone to pay to the individuals, pay to the society, pay to the true association.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and certainly I don't know about the rest of the world, other countries. I can only talk about my own society that I'm part of. To be a member, to be a full member of the society, Irish Society of Homeopaths, you have to be resident in Ireland or in the EU, and you have to be in practice in Ireland. Now, we have then other categories of people that can support us. But to be a full member, because funny, we've a couple of members now would have qualified in India, but they're living in Ireland now, and they had to go through the same uh, mentorship. They have to go through the same program. Once we've clarified all their qualifications, they would have to go through the same protocol as anybody else. So, and we've a few now that are living here. They're established, they're living here, going to enhance things in a great way, as time goes on. But I think most countries would have the general rule that certainly for their insurance as well, that you have to be living in the country or living, say, for us, it would be within Europe to get your practice insurance. I'm not sure how it is in India, but in a lot of countries, especially in Europe anyway, you have to have practice insurance. You can't just we can hang up a sign
Yeah.
and say we're a homeopath as long as we don't tread over any rules and breach any of the conditions regarding who can practice medicine and that sort of thing. Um, but we have to have practice insurance, like a professional insurance indemnity. Not all
Mm.
countries require that. So these are things that people
Yeah.
have to have before they can actually become a member. So you have to have all these things, all the little boxes ticked off. But for our membership, we do our best to provide supervision and support as much as we can, particularly to our new graduates. But as I say, it doesn't matter if you've been in practice 20 or 30 years, there'll always be a
Mm.
time when you might need to ask for the assistance, advice, or the help to sort an issue out from a colleague. And that
Okay.
goes for everybody, no matter who we are, or how many courses we've done, or how many books we've
Mm.
written. Occasionally, we all need somebody to help.
Great. So we are live on the nishancommunications.com. You can ask any question at 919-518-9773. And if you are not watching it live, you are watching it later after the show, you can email us at homeopathywordcommunity@gmail.com. You can find me and Gillian at homeopathywordcommunity.com also. We are board members. So, Gillian, thank you so much. You are explaining everything about the CPD. If anyone have any question, you can also chat us at nishancommunication.com/live.php. So, Gillian, anything else you want to suggest for every home pet? Why it is actually necessary for the about the CPD? What is the actual significance?
I feel that if we all avail of CPD in some shape, form, or variety, a little bit of mix of everything, because we all need to keep up with our materia medica. There's no harm now and again to go back and maybe do an anatomy and physiology course If you haven't done one in a long time, since the day you practiced started, since you got your certificate to say you are now a doctor in India or in other parts of the world, you're a professional homeopath, it's always good to go back and do an odd course just to revamp your knowledge or add to what you have already. To have social interaction with other homeopaths, very important, especially if you're in an isolated situation or you're working as a lone practitioner, not necessarily in the clinic with 5 or 6 other therapists, regardless of what the therapy is. But it's so important to have that interaction with your colleagues, ideally in person. If you've nothing set up already, and you know there's 3 other homeopaths live in your town, ring them and say, how about getting together for an hour and start something? Because together you have that unity, you know you're not alone. You might work alone, but it's good to have somebody else, either in your local town or in your local village or wherever it is, that if you can make that communication with others, which is one of the reasons I love the HWC, because we're all over the world. Like I can be sitting here chatting with you. You're sitting in India. I'm in Dublin. When we have the book club, we have people from Canada and America and all sorts. So it's just great because you get a view of how homeopathy is working in other countries, as well as what's going on in your own home place. And some places they have great difficulty. Other places it's fairly easy going, depending on the rules and the regulations again in that country. So it's so important to communicate with our colleagues and be aware of ways and protocols, even if it's something you might spend the week learning about a new protocol, use it for a fortnight, and then go back to the way you've always done things. That's me. I always end up doing that. But you're aware, you've been made aware of another way of doing things. Or somebody reads the same chapter in the book as you do, but they get a slightly different slant from it. They get a different idea from that. And then, even if you discuss that, you find the common ground. Otherwise, you decide they were living on a different planet and they obviously weren't reading the same book you were reading. But it's the communication and knowing you're not alone in the world.
Yeah, definitely. And you truly said that we are connected to the SWC.
Yeah.
SWC is not only doing the health issue, it is not only doing the book club, it is have many features. If you are a SWC member, you can show your blogs, you can write your articles your own. You can see our medical journals and the clever H is there. Many person are there. You can meet the whole entire home page from around the world at one community. So we all are thankful to Debbie Black who made this community. It was a small step, but Debbie did a lot of uh, work for SWC, and we are happy that we are there for SWC. So I always request every homeopath to please join Homeopathy World Community at homeopathyworldcommunity.com. It is an online community for professional homeopaths. This is for homeopaths only, and it is doing everything for homeopathy. You can you can read the articles, different courses are there. They have many things are there on the website, and you can also check it our website, homeopathyworldcommunity.com. With word community. We are connected as a homeopath, but yes, I know the person who is behind the camera, Mr. Amnan, is there, who is always supporting the SWC. I know him very well since a long time, since the health in started from there. So, Amnan, thank you so much. I always thanks to nishancommunication.com for this contribution to homeopathy.
Thank you.
Yes. So,
Thank you.
Gillian,
Thank you,
what
Deepak, for
are
giving
the
me the opportunity of chatting.
no, it's your community. Not, no, this is not a word of thank you because you are so senior. You are like a grandparents of the SWC. So we are happy that you are there. So what are the final words from your side, Gillian?
If you don't have some sort of support or supervision group in your area, find a couple of homeopaths and set one up.
Great.
Be there for
Thank
each
you.
other.
And yes, I always suggest every homeopath to unite together because homeopathy is the only science throughout the world that connect your physical symptom to the mental symptom. Like if you have a fever, your emotions will get a perfect remedy from homeopathy. No other science is there who is connecting the physical or emotional pain together. So this is the beauty of homeopathy. We will talk more about the homeopathy in another show. On we are always on the second Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, 7:30 at the Indian time. So and you can search the different time zone. So homeopathy world community is always committed to promote the homeopathy worldwide. I again said that homeopathy world community is an online community for professional homeopaths. So Gillian, thank you so much for today. Uh, Everything you explained about the CPDs. Thank you, Nishan Communication. Thank you, all viewers who are watching this show, who will watch this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.